December 31st, 1999. It was just another day in Pelican Bay Shoe. Pelican Bay Shoe. It was always the most quiet place anyone has ever done time in California. In Pelican Bay, you could hear a pin drop. You could hear your neighbor walking around. You could hear the guy in the corner cell walking around, doing whatever he's doing. If you had a cellie in Pelican Bay Shoe and you wanted to have a conversation with them, you would sit side by side and whisper. And the guy in your event could probably still hear you. That's how quiet Pelican Bay was. On the evening of December 31st, 1999, it was a regular day, regular evening. Guys were watching TV, watching their educational programs, studying, playing chess, just a regular night. And then there was a sound. The door opened to our building. In Pelican Bay and anywhere, especially in a level 4 prison in California, everyone is schooled. When them front doors open, pay attention, right? So we're conducting our regular evening program, and again, the door opened. There's a sound. You can hear the wheels of a cart being pushed in. They had the little gray and tan plastic carts they used to push stuff around in. This cart comes in the evening. Nothing comes in the evening. It's already after chow and everything. And you can hear the clanging of metal. Clink, 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 clink. You hear one of the pod doors open. We're still doing our thing, but we're paying attention. I'm paying attention. There's more than one cart. We can't see them, but we can hear them. Another pod door opens. That's when people on the tier start asking, hey, Owens, what's going on? See, Pelican Bay had this thing that we called pod raids. What a pod raid was when the cops in Pelican Bay made a decision that a certain building or a certain pod needed to be raided. They would assign 2 COs to each cell in that pod. Each CO knew exactly which cell he was going to run up to. The pod door would open. The front door to the building would open. The cops would come running. They'd run straight to the cells they were assigned to. Cuff up. They'd cuff you up within a minute. The whole pod is under handcuffs and on their way to be escorted to medical, visiting, wherever they decide they wanted to put everybody at, right? And for the next hour or 2, maybe 3, they're tearing your cell up. They're going through every piece of paper, every letter, everything you have. They're searching everything. This wasn't a pod raid. We didn't hear all the boots. We could hear carts and the clinging of metal. We posted up on our doors. Everybody's on their doors looking. And we can see some of us, depending on what cell you're in, you can see the control booth officer. And he's on the panels. And he's letting the cops in. Finally, the pod door opens to the pod I'm in. Here comes a cop. And he's pushing that cart. And I can see there's black rectangular pieces of metal. What the hell's this guy doing? So he comes in and you can hear him locking something on the door as they're making their way to each cell. He's not saying anything. Nobody's going to ask him anything. I remember when he got to my cell door, I was standing in front of the door. My cellie was sitting on the sink. The cop slides a piece of metal to the side of the door, padlocks it, looks at us, and walks away. That was it. They left. And we're looking. And then somebody says it. Hey, homie, I think this is for that Y2K shit. December 31st, 1999. We're hours away from the year 2000. Those of you that are old enough to remember, a lot of people thought the world was going to end that night. That when the numbers turned over from the 90s or the 1900s to the 2000s, that the computers weren't going to be able to handle it, and it was going to be chaos around the world, and it was going to be an economic collapse, and it was all the doomsdayers were predicting all this stuff. We don't care about that. We're in prison. But when they slid that metal in, things changed. That was different. They had never, ever utilized those slots in the door. We never even noticed those slots in the door until that day. There was absolutely no way whatsoever that any cell doors could be opened now. We were stuck. And for years we had heard, if there's ever martial law or a huge natural disaster, the CDC will execute everybody in Pelican Bay Shoe. They've been deemed the worst of the worst. They're not going to allow anybody to escape. So when the cops left, the normal silence of Pelican Bay Shoe was just a little bit more eerie. I remember looking at my Sally, and everybody that had a Sally, there was that tough guy image still, nah. But I know in my cell, we had the conversation. If something goes wrong, do you think they're going to come and cell by cell smoke us, shoot us? Now I remember my Sally saying, I'll try to run around. They only have a tray slot. I'll just run around the cell. And I was like, how are you going to run around the cell? And I remember telling them, if it came down to that, when they open the tray slot, I'll tell them, hey, don't waste your bullet, hold up. And I'll walk straight to the tray slot and crouch down, get it, don't miss. Then we thought about it and we said, if there's a natural disaster, they're not going to do that. They're just going to gas us. Imagine that. The shoe housed approximately 1,500 of California's allegedly most dangerous, most violent felons. December 31st, 1999, the hardest criminals were wondering, am I going to be dead in a couple hours? As we know, nothing came of it. But I can tell you, that was a strange night. We didn't know what was going to happen. But we were ready to die. That's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.